Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Donation Season 2. I'm your host, Olivia Fox, and this, as you know, is an interactive show where you, the viewers, can call in and ask any questions that you might have about the topic of organ and tissue donation in our community. As each week, we are streaming live at cantv.org/hotline, and you can call in and join our conversation at 312-738-1060. Again, that's 312-738-1060. So I know a lot of you have been hearing the commercials and we're like, talk donation. What's this all about? What type of donation? Is it donation to charity, donation to education? What are we talking about here? In actuality, it's a little bit of both. Donation to charity to your fellow man, woman, and child, as well as education about the topic of organ and tissue donation. And also, what minorities need to know about participating in this process. Ultimately, our sole purpose is to give you enough information to dispel the long-standing myths and misconceptions while helping our viewers to understand that Gift of Hope is a very reputable and honorable and trusted partner in the community. We recognize that minorities have notable fear of healthcare industry and the medical industry. And let's face it, a lot of those things are well-founded. However, over the past 30 years, with advances in modern medicine, with amazing transplant physicians, our hospitals, religious partners, Gift of Hope has helped change tragedies to triumphs while supporting donor families, recipients, and those waiting for a life-saving donation. So welcome. We're so excited to have you here tonight. And after our regularly scheduled program, we'll have a little bit in donation news.
Nikki's donations made a huge impact on a lot of people. This one right here, sitting next to me especially. When Gift of Hope came to me and asked me for the donation, it made me feel very confident knowing that I can give my baby's heart. This is Nikki's heart beating inside Tanisha's chest.
So when I heard this pounding, like, what is that noise? And the nurse said to me, that's your heart.
I carried Nikki for 9 months. Now Tanisha's gonna carry her the rest of her life.
Say yes to donation. Start the conversation with your loved ones today.
Nikki's donations made a huge...
Welcome back. So this week in donation news, we would like to highlight that last week, it was actually April 23rd through April 27th, was National Pediatric Transplant Week. So a lot of people don't often think about kids in the process of donation and transplantation, but oftentimes children are affected by illnesses and even accidents sometimes that end up leading to them being on one side or the other of the process of donation, either being in need of a transplant or becoming a donor. There are also many children that are, like I said, plagued by illnesses that end their lives early. And while children under the age of 16 are not able to register their wishes themselves, it's very important for families to understand what everybody's wishes are, even from a young age, and to be able to have those conversations with your loved ones and to teach your children that organ and tissue donation is a good thing to do. It's a good process to participate in, and that, you know, we want you to live a long, healthy life, but if and when it's your time to go, you can help save someone's life. So we just want to, understand that children participate in this process as well. And especially now thinking about the new legislation that just passed, where now 16 and 17-year-olds are now able to register their wishes to be a part of the organ tissue donor registry. So yay for National Pediatric Transplant Week. Last week, also in donation news, an Ohio man who received a heart transplant just 6 months ago began a journey walking from Cleveland to DC to raise awareness about organ and tissue donation. Isn't that amazing? I'm well, and I haven't had a transplant, and I can't imagine walking from Cleveland to DC. So to see that a man who has been a part of this process, who has been positively affected by donation and received a transplant, is now able to do such a feat and do something like this, to gain national news and to really raise awareness about how organ tissue donation can save and enhance lives. So shout out to him. He will be arriving in DC on May 8th And also, another cool thing that happened on the day that he left, it was actually his donor family meeting. So on a couple of episodes, we have talked about how Gift of Hope is responsible for coordinating donor family and recipient meetings in our service area. So at that time, that recipient was able to meet that donor family. So what an awesome event. Shout out to Cleveland, Ohio, and we hope he makes it there safe and sound by May 8th. So we had one more thing in donation news, but I think we're going to save that for next week. So right now we're going to, our weekly reminder for you is to say yes to organ and tissue donation. If you have any questions about it, you can definitely reach out to us at giftofhope.org. That is how you can find a lot of FAQs, how to get involved with Gift of Hope, and then also just a reminder to start the conversation with your loved ones today. You can go to Gift of Hope and join the organ donor registry, that's great, but if you don't do anything else after you've watched this show today, please have this conversation with your loved ones. Tell them what's important to you, let them know your wishes, and let them know what a good thing organ and tissue donation is and how you can really be a hero after such a tragic thing happen, in someone's life, to really turning tragedies to triumphs. So here this evening I'm joined by our very special guest, who is not only my boss but my mentor. We have here with us Miss Marion Shuck, Director of Community Affairs at Gift of Hope. Hey Marion.
Hello Olivia, thank you for having me tonight.
Thanks for joining us. Our viewers are so excited to see you. I know they are. We're so excited to have a great conversation about donation and kind of what Gift of Hope does. So you are a guru that I learn everything that I know from. So I'm so excited to have you here tonight.
I'm happy to be here. I've been with Gift of Hope 9 years. So I don't know everything, but I do know a lot. And I'm very passionate about what we do in managing our community outreach and really helping not just people who look like us, Olivia, but just people in general, because I know that a lot of people recognize that organ donation is a good thing. It's an altruistic thing to do, but oftentimes they don't understand the process of donation and what that means if you experience a tragedy.
Right. So that's our job, right? So just to kick off the evening, do you have any personal connections to donation, or how did you kind of get involved with Gift of Hope?
I have a little personal connection. I have an aunt who was sick and she needed a lung transplant, but she had the type of disease that wasn't conducive for her receiving a transplant. But what she did do was that she understood and she made a decision, and she helped us understand her decision to withdraw her care so that she could be a donor. Now, she wasn't an organ donor because of her illness, but she was a tissue donor.
Which last week we just talked about how important that is, and it's life-saving. We call it life-enhancing, but really it's life-saving too.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Both are equally important.
Very, very much so. So it's important for us to get those conversations and let people know about the stories of people who have been tissue donors and received tissue transplants, because they are not only life-enhancing but life-saving. So how did you get started with Gift of Hope?
You know what, Olivia, it was very interesting. About 9 years ago, we experienced the economic downturn. I was in a position where I was firing people every week, and I realized that and I started out in healthcare, and I realized that I wanted to get back into healthcare, and the position at Gift of Hope came open. Somebody recommended me, and the rest is history.
Cool, cool. So you mentioned what Gift of Hope does. So let's talk a little bit about the specific things that Gift of Hope is responsible for. Who exactly we are within the medical community, because we are a medical organization.
Absolutely. So Olivia, as you know, and so for our viewers that don't know, we are a federally mandated organ procurement organization, which lovingly is called an OPO. But what we do is we're responsible for coordinating the organ and tissue donation process within our designated region. So we are actually Region 7 within the Organ Procurement Organization, and we're responsible for coordinating the process for 3/4 of Illinois and 1 county in Indiana, which is Lake County. What does that mean to our viewers? That means that we coordinate that process in terms of we work with hospitals, we work with transplant centers. Every hospital is required to call us when there's an impending death, so we can go out and evaluate the potential for organ and tissue donation. But not only are we responsible for that, we're also responsible for public education, which our department, Community Affairs, is responsible for. Public education, which is educating hospitals and nurses and the transplant docs and the respiratory therapists and everyone who comes in contact with the family within the hospital. We're also responsible for taking care of those families who have made the selfless decision to donate. So Gift of Hope, we have over 300 staff, and some of our staff are responsible for going into the hospital and actually talking to a family at that tragic time. And Olivia, as you know, that is not the time to talk to someone about organ and tissue donation because you are actually in a situation where you have to come to grips and understand that the person that lying is in that bed, although they look normal, they look brown, they look pink, their chest may be respirating. The doctors have determined that their life is no longer sustainable, so now we have to have that conversation. We have that conversation in two ways, Olivia. One, if you're registered, which we encourage everyone to register to be an organ donor, and we'll talk about that later. And then two, if you're not. And the conversation that is most difficult, Olivia, is when you are not registered to be an organ and tissue donor.
Because then it's up to your family, right? That's another decision they have to make.
It's a decision they have to make, but Olivia, what happens when you don't have that conversation and inform your family that that is your wishes?
Yep. Sounds like they probably would do what they wanted as opposed to maybe what you would have really wanted, and you can't say what you would have really wanted at that point.
Absolutely. And that's why, Olivia, you showed the Lasting Legacy video before we started. And it's so important to know your family's decision. I will tell you, my husband was not registered. My daughter ratted him out and told me that he wasn't registered. And I said to him, you do know what I do every day, right? You know what I do when I go to work.
Yeah. And I mean, I know Reggie. He's not a bad guy. He's a nice guy. You know, you can't tell if you looked at him walking up and down the street, whether he's registered or not.
He's educated.
Yeah.
But his position is that of everybody that we meet in our course of work, right, Olivia? I want somebody else to make that decision. Well, viewers, I can tell you, at that moment, I am no longer the manager of community affairs. I now, if something happens to my husband, I become a wife, I become a mother, I become a daughter-in-law who now has to make a decision. And if I don't know what my husband's wishes are, I might be influenced, I might be swayed, and I might not be thinking about an altruistic thing, Olivia, of saving someone else's life, because that's what organ and tissue donation is all about. It's not about the personal. It is about if you had the opportunity to save someone else's life, viewers, would you? And organ and tissue donation is a simple way to do that. After death. We're not going to follow you home if you registered and hit you upside the head.
I don't have time for that.
And take your organs. We're not going to follow you in the alley. It is only after your life has been determined is no longer sustainable. And Olivia, as you know, we deal with a lot of people that come to us with misconceptions about, well, you're not going to save my life. If they know I'm an organ donor, if I get to the hospital, they're just going to pull the drape and let me die. Well, we all know because we work with over 180 hospitals, 9 transplant centers, that they take an oath and a vow to save your lives. I met with some great EMT professionals today, and they take it seriously, preserving the opportunity in a tragic circumstances to preserve life, to get you triaged, to get you to the hospital so you can receive better care. And it's their job. And no one goes to work every day saying, oh, I want to kill somebody so they can be an organ donor. They don't do it, Olivia.
And I mean, I have a lot of friends that, you know, are in the medical field, whether they're nurses or training to be doctors or whatever, and they go through a lot with that schooling and with how much it costs to go to that schooling. So I'm not sure that anybody would compromise that just to, you know, try to do something wrong or not save someone's life when that is what they've gone to school to, you know, to do for the world and what they have promised to do, you know, with that oath.
Well, Olivia, in this day and age of social media and instant, what I call tattling, because everyone that has a camera can film and tattle and show it into the world in less than 3 seconds.
Quick.
So if that were to occur on a regular basis, viewers, don't you think that you'd know about if there were any untoward or, nefarious behaviors around organ and tissue donation?
I feel like it would be blowing up just like a lot of other, cases and, things that are done wrong are blowing up right now. So
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure, like you said, it would be out pretty quick. So you mentioned an interesting part when you were talking about how it's not the time to have the conversation in the hospitals about organ and tissue donation. We want to have this conversation before we get to that point, before we're in this situation, before we're in the hospital setting. So why is community outreach and community education so important to this topic?
Olivia, it's important because I'll go back to that story a little bit and then I'll progress the conversation. At that moment that I'm in the hospital having a conversation with the doctors about my loved one's care, I'm thinking about a lot of different things, Olivia. I'm thinking about how am I going to send my daughter to college. I'm thinking about how am I going to pay my mortgage. I'm thinking about all of these things that I can't even focus on having a conversation with someone. If I have that conversation with my husband, which I have now had, his registering is a gift, Olivia. It is a gift to me that says, I know what you want. I can help Gift of Hope, and Gift of Hope can help me honor your wishes. We can help turn this tragic circumstance that I'm probably never going to get over, because this is potentially the worst day of my life, right? That I'm losing a spouse, I'm losing a child, I'm losing a mother, a parent, I'm losing somebody close to me. It's potentially the worst day of your life.
Sure.
So when you're in that situation, Olivia, you don't want to have that conversation. You want that conversation had. You want it to be a gift. We're called Gift of Hope for a reason, but you want to be a gift to someone, Olivia. And if you're having that conversation in the middle of that, you are not thinking. You're just not. And we, as human beings, we plan for a lot of things, Olivia. I'm planning for my daughter to come home from college in 2 weeks. I'm planning a vacation. I'm wondering how I'm going to get my paper done for school. We plan for a lot of things, but we don't plan for the one thing that happens to all of us. And at some point, death is going to happen to every single one of us. It is unavoidable. It is unavoidable, Olivia, and it's better to have a plan. It's better to have your loved ones know what you want, and it's better to make that a social norm, to make that a part of your planning process, a social norm conversation about everything. Olivia, when my daughter went to college, she just turned 18, and I had to have the conversation with her about where everything was, because she's going to school in New York. And she needed to know if something happened to us, where our insurance was, what our wishes are. You have to prepare your children too. You have to prepare the people in your life for one day you're not going to be here.
It's very true. So I know what we do every day, but help our viewers understand the method of outreach that Gift of Hope finds is best to disseminate this topic.
Well, Olivia, we're called Community Outreach for a reason. Our department is responsible for educating not only the public, but our legislators, our community partners. And the reason we do that, Olivia, as you know, there are 115,000 people now on the waiting list. The majority of those people in that waiting list, Olivia, are minority, African American and Hispanics. So our outreach is really focused on helping people of color understand the organ and tissue donation process, but also understand how they can benefit. When we talk about end-stage renal failure, when we talk about end-stage heart disease, the treatments that are employed, dialysis, having an LVAD, which is a left ventricular assisted device. When you talk about those things, those are a bridge. Those are treatments, but transplants are the cure. We have, of those 76,000 people waiting for a kidney, about 31,000 are African American. The other 20,000, another 20,000 are of Hispanic and Latino descent. And then we have some other ethnicities mixed in there. But the important thing is, so how do we reach people who are most vulnerable? As you mentioned earlier, we don't always think about trusting the healthcare community. We've had issues over the last 70 years with trust. We typically believe the myths and misconceptions, and so we don't understand that our health is impacted. And Olivia, by the time we get to the doctor, it is too late. We've heard stories of people saying, I woke up and I was on dialysis.
My mom.
I woke up and they said I needed a heart disease. I needed a heart transplant. I woke up, I got sick, and my liver blew. My lungs, you know.
Our viewers have heard those stories of those people that were in need.
Those stories are real. It happens every single day. And it's because we are not proactive in our care. We are not proactive in our education about health diseases, whether it be diabetes, high cholesterol. And Olivia, I will tell you, and all our viewers, I would say that every viewer that is watching this or listening to this, they know someone who has heart disease, has high cholesterol, has high blood pressure, has diabetes, or if you're older, sugar is what my grandmother would call it. Oh, baby, I just have a touch of sugar. Those things lead to end-stage organ failure. And if not treated, Olivia, this is what causes you to have to need an organ transplant.
So, you know, it's interesting because a lot of times, you know, within our department and we're in the community, we let people know that regarding minorities and how many of us are the ones that are on the waiting list, yet we're the ones that are least likely to be donors. That is a statistic. That is a deadly disparity, we call it. The fact that we are the most in need, minority groups are the most in need, but least likely to be donors. That doesn't balance out, especially when several of the transplants and criteria for donation is that, you know, sometimes it's better from someone that is in the same race as you. So it's important for us to understand those things, and when we talk about supporting your community and really helping your community grow and flourish, we think about these types of things too, not just money all the time, but how we can help our community live longer and stronger through this process when there's nothing that you have to do today. There's nothing you have to, you know, do today besides say yes to being a registered organ donor, joining the donor registry, and living a healthy life.
And Olivia, and that's why the work that we do is so important, because we have the ability to reach all areas of the community. And whether they're at work, they're at play, they're at school, they're at church, you're in a professional association, our department, our organization is committed to going to whether you have a church or a trade show or a community event, or if you have a library, or
it's a great time to show people my email address. And they can reach us if they have any of these events that you're talking about. For your church, for your school, you can definitely reach out to us at giftofhope.org, or you can reach out to me directly at ofox@giftofhope.org. We love to be anywhere in the community, just like Marion said, wherever you work, wherever you play, wherever you believe. We would love to come share this message of how you can leave a legacy and turn tragedies to triumphs, you know, through the process of organ and tissue donation. So thank you so much for that, Marion. That's a really important reminder for the community. So, final question. We have a couple seconds left. What is one thing that you would tell a family friend that does not believe in donation? You talked about Reggie, but if today, if you were to leave here and go to dinner with a family friend and they said, I wouldn't be an organ donor, what would you tell them?
Olivia, I would tell them to really think about leaving a legacy. Think about the ability to save someone else's life. We bury healthy organs every day in the United States. We could eradicate that list, Olivia, whether through deceased donation, living donation. And I would encourage people to think about Christian love, brotherly love, but just really think about a legacy. Because when you experience a tragedy, Olivia, if we don't offer that opportunity for organ donation, and after your chance has passed and you say, I want to go back and be an organ donor, I want my loved one because now I've thought about it, we can't get that opportunity back. And so we don't want anybody's life to be in vain when they could be a legacy or a blessing to someone else.
That's awesome, and that's our message this week and every week. If you have not done so already on your driver's license, please consider joining the Organ Tissue Donor Registry. You can join by going to our website, giftofhope.org. There's a giant button that you can't miss on the home screen that says join the registry. It'll take you 30 seconds to join. And if you don't do that, if you don't say yes when you go to the DMV, if you don't do anything else when we finish this show up, please, please, please start the conversation with your loved ones today. As Marion mentioned, we really, really want to help make this a social norm. We want this to be something that people aren't afraid of. Understand that we want you to live a long, healthy life, but save lives and leave a legacy once it is your time to go. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Let's Talk Donation. Thank you so much to Marion for joining us.
Thank you, Olivia.
And we'll see you next week with another awesome guest and another awesome conversation about organ and tissue donation in our community. See you next week, everyone.